Way back in 2013, with just months to go before the launch of the PlayStation 4, Naughty Dog released The Last of Us on the PlayStation 3. Despite their own work on the likes of Uncharted 2, and despite the immense leaps that graphics took in that generation, with games like Metro Last Light on PC pushing the DirectX feature set we'd come to see on the 8th gen, The Last of Us was a stunner. Despite running on hardware dating back to 2006, The Last of Us seemed to put a cap on the entire PlayStation versus Xbox 360 graphics debate that had stretched on throughout the 7th generation. It was an unprecedentedly gorgeous console title, and it gave us a glimpse of what was possible in the 8th gen. Indeed, when The Last of Us Remastered cropped up on PlayStation 4, it was remarkable to see just how well the PlayStation 3 swan song held up compared with early 8th gen AAA titles, with just a bump to resolution and frame rate. It was also a demonstration of Naughty Dog's skill as PlayStation developers par excellence. Now, 7 years and an entire console generation later, it appears as though history is about to repeat itself. At the very end of the 8th generation, with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X just months away, Naughty Dog released a sequel to its PS3 send-off, The Last of Us Part 2 on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro. We will undoubtedly see The Last of Us Part 2 land on the PlayStation 5, either through backwards compatibility or a remaster of its own. However, in the meantime, the base PlayStation 4 and enhanced PS4 Pro code look absolutely stunning, and arguably offers us a taste of what 9th gen visuals will look like a few months before the 9th gen consoles hit the market. The Last of Us Part 2 has received an overwhelmingly positive critical response. This is simply an excellent game all in all. However, right now, we're going to be looking at the technology behind the game, how Naughty Dog leveraged 7 years of experience with PlayStation 4 hardware to craft one of those precious few games where we don't have to suspend our belief quite as hard. The Last of Us Part 2 is a technological masterpiece. Let's take a deep dive and find out what makes it tick. Engine overview. The Last of Us Part 2 is built on Naughty Dog's internal engine, meaning that it builds on the technology powering Uncharted Lost Legacy and, of course, The Last of Us on PlayStation 3. Nevertheless, there have been substantial improvements under the hood. The Last of Us 2's engine uses a deferred renderer. This is part of what makes the game's remarkable lighting a possibility. The deferred approach lets Naughty Dog add in multiple dynamic light sources. In a game environment like The Last of Us Part 2, where electricity and artificial lights aren't exactly commonplace, the sun and the limited number of in-scene light sources, fires, candles, and more, can play a big role in atmospherics. The interplay of light and shadow here, and the interface of the sun lighting with other light sources creates scenes with immense contrast. As mentioned, The Last of Us 2's engine is an iterative update over earlier Naughty Dog titles.
Alright, that's all of them.
Let's hope so.
What does this mean, though, when comparing The Last of Us 2 to the older PlayStation 3 game? Uncharted debuted that deferred rendering lighting system that Naughty Dog has been using ever since. In The Last of Us 2, relative to the original game, we see an increase in the number of light sources on screen, the range at which light sources cast dynamic light, and a greater fidelity to the nature of light interaction, thanks to an overhauled material rendering pipeline and enhanced indirect lighting. The physically based material rendering system is the most significant improvement over The Last of Us 1 on PlayStation 3. The use of PBR materials allows the lighting to really shine, with surfaces like corroded metal and wood photorealistic at medium distances.
You ever smuggle a kid before?
No, that's a first. So what's the deal with you and Marlene anyways?
I don't know.
friend, huh? You're friends with the leader of the Fireflies.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, he taught me about rewiring electronics and stuff. May we all be that sharp at 73.
May we all make it to 73.
Sign us in.
What was this place?
It used to be a radio tower.
The world design is, of course, more open-ended, and texture assets are authored with 1080p and 4K displays as the target, not 720p as with the PlayStation 3. The Last of Us 2's motion matching animation system deserves space all to itself. The technique, something Naughty Dog showcased 2 years ago, enables animations in The Last of Us 2 to be far more fluid than in the first game. Motion matching lends a dynamism to character animations that we've previously only seen in Rockstar's Rage Engine titles, powered by Euphoria middleware. Motion matching works by allowing the game code to contextually pick, mix, and match specific animation chunks based on the context of what's happening on screen. This makes transitions between different animations very smooth. It also allows for incidental animation details, like Ellie trying to grasp nearby objects for support when she stumbles. Apart from the material rendering pipeline and the art assets, motion matching is without a doubt the biggest 8th gen improvement to The Last of Us 2. When this game is in motion, there is no mistaking it for its PlayStation 3 predecessor. PlayStation 4 versus PlayStation 4 Pro. Before we proceed ahead, a note for you. We analyzed the game's performance by taking some sample scenes from the game and running it through Teardrop, an open source software. Note that this tool gives us a mere demonstration of the game's performance because an exact one-to-one representation of performance can only be provided by the developers themselves, since they have access to a vast array of tools and profilers. Unlike a number of late-generation titles, The Last of Us 2 delivers a remarkable degree of performance and image quality parity between the base PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. The base console is running at a fixed 1080p with a solid 30 FPS update. Unlike The Last of Us on PlayStation 3, The Last of Us 2 doggedly sticks to its 30 FPS target on both platforms throughout most of the game. On the PlayStation 4 Pro, performance is by and large similar. However, the game renders in at 1440p. Considering the excellent performance levels on both platforms, we couldn't help but feel that the PlayStation 4 Pro version was a bit unambitious. Something akin to Detroit Remain Human's 4K checkerboarding implementation could potentially have produced better results without that much of a hit to performance. Nevertheless, thanks in large part to that excellent temporal AA solution, image quality is acceptable on 4K panels. particle rendering. The Last of Us 2's environments perfectly complement the game's particle rendering systems. In dusty interior environments, high-density particle volumes that appear to be full resolution interact with light sources to really convey a sense of decrepitness. Light rays shine through particle volumes in both interior and exterior scenes to great effect. Particles react dynamically to light. In-game campfires are a great example of this, with smoke columns subtly shaded by the color and light of the fire. Anti-aliasing and post-processing. The cinematic nature of The Last of Us Part 2 and Naughty Dog titles in general means that the developer pays particular attention to its anti-aliasing implementation and post-process effects pipeline, orienting both towards a filmic presentation. Last of Us on the PlayStation 3 made use of a relatively crude post-process anti-aliasing solution that smoothed high-contrast edges. It was a relatively light-handed solution, which meant that blur was kept to a minimum. However, combined with the 720p output, it also meant that jaggies were an issue. In The Last of Us 2, Naughty Dog deploys a refined temporal anti-aliasing implementation that combines a clean-edge presentation with minimal blur. This is the same approach that we saw earlier with Uncharted Lost Legacy, and it looks great here too. The Last of Us 2's temporal anti-aliasing solution enables the base PlayStation 4 to output a clean, native 1080p. However, it's even more critical on the PlayStation 4 Pro. The enhanced 4K-ready console outputs a relatively low 1440p scaled up to 4K displays. However, thanks to great edge coverage and minimal blur, as well as the post-process heavy aesthetic of the game, the PlayStation 4 Pro delivers a great experience too. The post-process pipeline has always been a focus for Naughty Dog, and The Last of Us 2 is no exception. A stellar motion blur implementation with a sample count acts as a great complement to the motion matching system, lending even greater fluidity to character animation. High-quality ambient occlusion complements the game's global illumination to add depth to indirect lighting. In a game where there are so few light sources apart from the sun, there are lots of shadowed areas that this enhances considerably. Light bloom is used sparingly, mostly to enhance the quality of dynamic light sources. The Last of Us 2's HDR implementation elevates bloom on areas where it's used, as well as providing rich contrast in shaded areas. Conclusion. As this console generation comes to a close, The Last of Us 2 seems to have finally realized so many of the promises implicit in the 2013 PS4 reveal. Wide-open environments, lifelike visuals, and characters that come closer to leaving the uncanny valley than ever before. If this is a reasonable baseline for 9th-gen visuals, the PS5 is going to offer a truly remarkable gaming experience in the months and years to come.
And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, please hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to switch on the notifications bell icon next to it. That way you'll never miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.